Good morning, doctors. Thank you all for being here today and to share in this very special day with the Colorado State University Veterinary Medicine class of 2018. It seems like only yesterday we were all gathered outside the veterinary teaching hospital, meeting each other for the first time. There's simply nothing like getting a group of complete strangers together and having them do awkward icebreakers. I remember having to stand in a circle, and we each had to take off one shoe, put it in the middle of the circle, and then we had to grab a shoe that wasn't our own, find the shoe's owner, and proceed to have a completely normal conversation. Like, "Hi, I'm Christy. I'm from California. I like dogs. I hope you don't mind my sweaty shoes." We've come a long way since our first year orientation. We started as a group of unique students representing 30 different states, Canada, Puerto Rico, and China. But over the course of 4 years, we have emerged as so much more: friends, colleagues, companions, and most importantly, doctors. We have shared immense highs and lows. We've seen relationships form. We've welcomed new children into our family. And as you might expect, we've welcomed so many new animals into our homes. We've had to say goodbye to the loved ones we hold close in our hearts today, and we've empathized with those in pain and suffering. We've grown to care and respect each other, consulting with one another about our patient's condition, or when we've been baffled by the diagnostic results because they just didn't make any sense. We've developed the utmost trust with each other, literally putting our fate into each other's hands. There's nothing quite like the trust you develop with someone when they are holding an animal that you're performing a rectal on. We've made mistakes together, and we've sought out each other for comfort when we felt like complete failures and wondered why we even went into veterinary school at all. Thank you, DVM class of 2018, for being a group of truly phenomenal individuals. We would not be here today without your support, care, and love of each other. It takes a very special group of people who are up to the challenge of taking on patients who can't tell them what's wrong. They just have to know. In the past 4 years, when school became especially challenging, when we've had a particularly heavy exam load, and of course every time we've studied for capstone, we've always been told, remember why you're here. And today, on our last day, I'd like to remind you of why you're here. You're here today because whether you have always known you wanted to become a veterinarian, or whether this is your second, third, or even fourth career choice, there has always been a little voice inside of you that has said, well, I really love medicine, but humans are gross. Whether you're going to become a general practitioner, go on to develop the next vaccine, pursue working for the USDA, or anesthetize the lion at the zoo, what unites us all are two very basic questions. Why is this happening, and how can I fix it? You were chosen by the admissions committee in 2013, not just because of your thousands of volunteer hours, your outstanding grades, your letters of recommendation, or your personal statement. You were chosen because there was something in your application that stood out and said, this person is a CSU Ram. You were Dean Stetter's first-round draft pick. But it didn't end there. You were selected, sure, but the reason why you are sitting here today, on our last day, is because you fought so hard to stay here. First year, you donned your horribly smelling blue coat for anatomy lab and learned all of the origin and insertion points of every muscle, only come to find out in fourth year it really didn't matter. You passed parasitology, and you didn't just master how to correctly spell the word Acanthocylonema reconditum, but you correctly stirred the poo sample in front of Dr. Ballweber for the practical portion of capstone, all while trying not to knock the poo sample over in front of her. Some of us were less fortunate in this endeavor, but you still passed. In second year, you understood what it meant to be Jack and Kate from Titanic, surviving the Atlantic Ocean cold in Pathology 101. At least you had enough room for your computer, your coffee, and your lunch. We were moving up in the world. By third year, you endured too many exams to count, with perhaps the most difficult part of it all was remembering that Clinside 2's dermatology exam opened on Thursday at 4 p.m. but closed on Friday at 5 a.m. Third year was also when you were finally welcomed into the hospital during the mornings, and if you were fortunate to be working with a kind fourth year, they sometimes even let you do things besides running blood work and urine down to clin pathology. And now with fourth year finally behind us, you're still here because you've made it through all the sleepless nights when you've been called in for surgery, anesthesia, radiology, or all of the above. And you're here because you've endured the overwhelming sadness after putting in your whole vet point record in, only to have it erased within moments just as you were leaving your hospital shift at 1 a.m. You're here because not only are you intelligent, but you're able to hold immense amounts of information in your brain. The normal temperature range for dogs, cats, sheep, goats, horses, how to intubate a llama, and that it's really, really challenging. Or for those of you on urgent care that day, what it looks like when a tarantula is lethargic. You're here because you've endured the long marathon of veterinary school. And I'm not talking about the marathon of the rigorous course load, but literally a marathon of walking around the hospital in search of a working scale, of walking laps and laps around the hospital corridors just searching for your clinician. But on a serious note, thank you to all of our friends and family sitting here today who have provided us with the utmost emotional and financial support for this journey that has spanned far greater than the past 4 years, to putting our needs ahead of your own, and for providing us with the building blocks and a strong educational foundation to succeed. Thank you for listening to us when we've been overwhelmed with studying for national boards, when we've questioned being in veterinary school at all, and when nodding intently during all of our inane stories about the animals you never met. Thank you for building us up during the moments we needed it the most. Thank you to the veterinary nurses and hospital staff for their patience with us, for looking again for the fee sheet we know we turned in to the front, for giving us the opportunities to do procedures, and for taking the time to teach us how to do something that we know they could do much more efficiently and probably better. Thank you to our faculty, clinicians, and professors who have guided our learning from the very first anatomy lecture we had with Dr. Fales to the continued learning and rounds topics we had while on clinical rotations, for giving us the tools to know where to look up our learning issues, and for being the type of veterinarians we aspire to become. It is a sincere privilege to become your fellow colleagues today. There is no other profession where when you say what you do, you hear such a positive response of, "That's amazing, I've always wanted to be a veterinarian." We are so lucky to be in a profession where we get the opportunity to learn and experiencing something new every single day. My wish for each and every one of you is going forth to think well of yourself and to proclaim this fact to the world, not in loud words, but in great deeds. To learn from the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future. To continue to ask yourself with every patient or problem that presents itself, why is this happening and how can I fix it? To have confidence in yourselves and to trust your gut above all else. My hope is that wherever this veterinary journey takes you, you always remember where you came from, why you're here, and what it means to be a CSU Ram. Have courage, be kind, and may you always remember that cats are made of rubber. Congratulations, class of 2018.